Welcome to the 6-5 Summit. I'm D.R. Carlson, Senior Director of Go-to-Market Strategies for the Americas at Equinix. Thank you for joining our session, Exceeding Customer Expectations in a Digital-First World. We hear a lot today about digital transformation or being digitally ready or digital-first mindset. Whatever you call it, we know it's happening. And we have seen customers in every industry digitally transform by moving more to an overarching strategy of digital transformation. And what we have seen is this idea of digital transformation comes down to three primary components. The first is establishing a digital core by moving more to a distributed hub architecture and then interconnecting those digital hubs. After establishing this digital core, we see customers start to integrate digital ecosystems, meaning all of the partners and vendors that these customers are using on a daily basis. And finally, interacting at the digital edge, getting all of that information that they have closer to their end users. Now, I thought it might be a good use of time for me to give you a number of customer examples where we've seen customers do these things. But it might make more sense for you to hear from one directly. Our guest today is Eric Norman. He is the head of infrastructure and innovation for the InterContinental Hotel Group. Welcome, Eric.
DR, thank you, and my pleasure to be here. And IHG is a global company with over 6,000 hotels and 18 different brands with some key brands like InterContinental Hotels and Holiday Inn and Holiday Express. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Eric, while you are the head of infrastructure and innovation for IHG today, I'm going to guess that that wasn't your first job out of college. Can you give us an overview? Can you give us an overview of your career and some of the larger challenges you've faced along the way?
I started out after college working for NASA, and so I worked for I wore a propeller head as a scientist, but I ended up moving into the banking industry and then fell into the hospitality world, which was a very world that deals with guests around the world. And some of the challenges that we found as we started our digital journey was around, the world had changed in the last 3 years where it moved to more of a hybrid worker, and workers started moving towards, doing business, but also taking vacation at the same time. And, we also saw that our loyalty members, we had about 100 million at the time, and they were contributing, well over 50% of room nights in our business. So a great opportunity for us to look at our digital journey and how we can maximize opportunity for that.
That's good. It's interesting that you mentioned that, and that some of the challenges were the same across all of those different industries that you mentioned, which goes back to what Abhijit shared with us earlier, that there were these consistencies that are seen across industry, across verticals that organizations are facing. And so when you think about some of those challenges that you faced and those challenges that you overcame, what were some of the things that helped you the most overcome your biggest challenges, especially in the last 3 years?
Yeah, we set out a strategy to rewrite our mobile loyalty app. We also decided on modernizing our technology stack, and Equinix was a huge player in that decision. We had to rebuild our network because some of the challenges that we were fighting against was regulatory and compliance, kind of similar to what Forrester was mentioning as part of the study. Is that we're a global company. We've got to be able to be compliant and meet the regulatory in every country around the world. And to be able to do that, we had to change our network and how we distributed not only the public cloud but our SaaS partners and our B2B partners and be able to connect them in the closest region around the world, get access to data and resources, again, in country to make it performant.
That's good. That's good. And we hear that a lot. Again, when we work with organizations just like you and when we were working with you, I think one of the best things that we hear is what you said, is that it started with a strategy. I think for so long we saw IT organizations making one-off IT decisions as they had always done. And now organizations are realizing it has to be tied to a much larger strategy. Not surprising, the first thing that you mentioned was transforming your network. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, as we saw, I kind of call it the Cambian explosion. Back 600 million years ago, organisms were popping up all over the place. And, today, we're having our own explosion, not only in our business, but, globally for every company is, data and applications are being spread out all over the place. And to be able to connect and provide a performant, move data around from one side to another to get to your analytics, to your enterprise data warehouse, we had to come up with a new network. The old network that was hub and spoke into a single data center or two data centers, it's not scalable or tenable to be able to meet the demand of data growth and where data and applications sit around the globe. And so we implemented a multi-regional Equinix performance hubs around the globe, including in China and across Europe and Asia and in the Americas, that allows us to bring our hotels together, brings our guests together, brings all our public cloud and applications that we have together in a very optimal way, so we can be successful as a business.
We hear that a lot of companies. One of the first things that they do is realize that they need to update the network, just as you laid out, moving from that hub and spoke more to a distributed hub, performance hub, as you had mentioned, to set that foundation. We say all the time, we believe the network is the foundation of digital transformation, because it will be everything else, or that is where everything else will sit and will ride upon the network. One of the things you also mentioned that we're seeing companies do that for is to be able to, as you said, modernize the tech stack, the ability to connect to cloud providers and SaaS providers, this digital ecosystem that we're seeing just explode and become more and more important. Can you share a little bit more about that with us?
Yeah, we set out over the last 3 years and started moving a lot of our apps, but it's not moving the apps. We've re-architected them to be more agile and part of a new DevOps pipeline, so that way we can have a greater agility in delivering functionality to our guests and our hotel owners around the globe in a very easy manner. So we've partnered with different partners, from our global reservation system to players like Salesforce, AWS, GCP. We also implemented using a overlay network that overlays all our networking construct using a company called Aviatrix that allows us to see and process our data globally in a single view, right? And because it is a hybrid network, I've got pretty much every cloud provider being used, and you got to be able to visually, from a day two operations, being able to support it and maintain it. So,
you mentioned about getting all of this information. You set the foundation. You now are getting all of this information with the desire to get that to the end user, which everyone is talking now about this digital edge. Can you help us understand, where do you define the edge?
We define the edge as the customer's cell phone. I mean, if you really think about it, the cell phone has under the pandemic and everything, people have gravitated to leveraging that cell phone globally to do, their purchases, their living, they're on their phones all the time doing transactions. And, so that edge in the hospitality industry is critical to us to be able to deliver something at that edge to the end user guest.
We have a lot of conversations around the edge, everyone wanting to define where it is. There's a whole lot of agreement on where it is, or that there is a digital edge, probably a whole lot of agreement on where it is. And I think that's because, as you just summed up, that edge will be determined by the consumer, not by the provider. It'll be determined by us on our phones, whatever industry that we're in. But when thinking about your industry and getting that information to your guests on their phones or whatever device that they're using, what are some of the challenges and concerns that you have about moving this data to the edge?
Again, it gets back to having that global network so that way you can distribute data or cache data at the edge. Because again, you want the experience to be very performant. And, if you're not, back in the old days, if you had a data center sitting in the U.S. and you're delivering service to someone sitting in China, the performance is not going to be there. And, so you've got to be able to be in country, localized, being able to deliver all the way out to that edge at the best way you can, so that the experience, if the experience is not acceptable by the guests, they'll move on. They'll move quickly to somewhere else that is performant. So, so we cherish the need to make sure that we are delivering our applications as close as we can to the guest experience.
And that experience is expected, probably even demanded now by end users who are, again, expecting or demanding a seamless end-to-end experience, regardless of what it is that you're doing. Again, thank you for joining our session, Exceeding Customer Expectations in a Digital-First World. Please go to Equinix.com should you have any questions about your digital transformation journey, as we'd be more than happy to help.